Julian Alaphilippe, a cyclist carrying the weight of an expected nation, shouldering the burden of trying to live up to his predecessor's success, the likes of Jacques Anquetil, Bernardino, Laurent Fignon, all worthy winners of the biggest race in the world, the Tour de France. In 2019, we saw one of the most exciting riders of our current generation take on the world's best riders in what became a legitimate assault on the maillot jaune. It's easy to pigeonhole a rider and the role they play in the professional peloton nowadays. You're either a sprinter, a climber, a general classification contender, or maybe you're the type of rider who revels in those early spring classics. But Julian Alaphilippe is one such rider you can't pigeonhole. Is he a sprinter? Well, he did beat Peter Sagan in a bunch sprint in the 2019 Milan-San Remo. So he's a one-day classics rider. Okay, so maybe you could pigeonhole him. After all, he has won 5 one-day classics. Any other notable results? Well, a few. He has won the polka dot jersey in the 2018 Tour de France. He's also won the general classification at the Amgen Tour in California in 2016, as well as general classification at the Tour of Britain in 2018. But how? How can a rider excel in so many different cycling disciplines? It's his heart. Julian Alaphilippe rides with his heart. He doesn't care how many watts he's pushing out or for how long. He isn't thinking that if he can maintain 450 watts for the next 3 hours that he's going to break his rivals. He's thinking, I want to win. I'm going to win regardless of anything, even when the odds are stacked against him in an event we can all agree on he doesn't excel in. Time trials. But last year, on a hot, humid July day, Julian Alaphilippe once again proved he cannot be pigeonholed. He took a shock victory on stage 13 of the 2019 Tour de France, the day Julian Alaphilippe did the impossible.
As he moved out of sight of the cameras, he took his hands off the handlebars again, but this time he was doing 60 kilometers per hour. He lost control in the gusty conditions and slammed into a wall.
Now, the biggest news in 2019 prior to the start of the Tour de France was the race favourite and 4 times winner Chris Froome wouldn't be there after his Dauphiné TT Recon crash, making this one of the most open editions of the race in a long time. People still said the winner would come from Team Ineos, probably in the shape of Geraint Thomas, as long as that shape was the thin svelte version that we saw in 2018 and not the more relaxed version we saw over the 2019 winter of him. But one thing no one mentioned was a French winner of the maillot jaune. At best, the French were hoping for a stage win or two, and they didn't have to wait long. Stage 3 saw Julian Alaphilippe attack out of the main peloton on the final climb, clearly looking for nothing more than a plucky stage win. But as he crossed the line almost 30 seconds ahead of his nearest rivals, little did he know that he'd just secured the yellow jersey. It was a moment to savour for the French, but unfortunately a moment that wouldn't last too long, as stage 6 saw the riders finish atop La Planche de Belleville, with Giulio Ciccone stealing the maillot jaune from Julian Alaphilippe by a mere 6 seconds. Well, at least the French saw a Frenchman in the yellow jersey for 2 days. He got a stage win, he could potentially now go for the polka dot jersey. Yeah, all in all, this was as good as it was going to get for the French, and they could be happy. However, Alaphilippe had different ideas, and he wasn't done just yet in his quest for yellow. As the riders moved through the Tour, stage 8 saw an almost identical attack from Julian Alaphilippe with 12k to go, but this time he had Thibaut Pinot in hot pursuit, which would play perfectly into the hands of Alaphilippe as they worked to close down the gap on the lone leader Thomas de Gent. Thibaut Pinot put in some big efforts to work alongside Alaphilippe, knowing that he doesn't need to worry about him come the big mountains. So the French riders working together to that finish line, helping Alaphilippe into the yellow jersey for the 2nd time that week. And from that moment he crossed that line, he'd go on to be in that yellow jersey all the way through to stage 18. And who knows, maybe if the weather was a bit kinder and stage 18 had ran its full course, maybe, just maybe, we'd see a Frenchman on top of the podium in Paris. However, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. Let's rewind back to stage 13, where everybody thought it was potentially Julian Alaphilippe's last day in the yellow jersey. Stage 13 was an individual time trial around Pau, an undulating course with a few kicks to keep this from being a time trial specialist day out. Everyone's money was on Geraint Thomas to win the stage and claw back the time he'd lost to Alaphilippe over the past 2 weeks and set himself up perfectly to take the Maillot Jaune in the Alps a few days later. Initially, it was Thomas de Gendt who had set the early pace and led the stage until Geraint Thomas had gone 22 seconds faster than the Belgian. And looking at where his GC rivals were, people were expecting that Alaphilippe would be happy losing anywhere between 20 and 40 seconds to Thomas on this time trial, which would mean he would still maintain almost a minute on general classification. But at the first checkpoint, he was up. 6 seconds up. He'd obviously gone out hard, too hard. He was clearly going to pay for his effort. Here he was, beating one of the best time trial riders in the world, a man renowned for his rides against the clock. Surely he was going to blow. Surely he'd be lucky to stay in the yellow jersey at the end of this stage. There was no way he could keep the pace. Could he? Well, no, he couldn't just keep the pace. He increased the pace, crossing the line almost 15 seconds ahead of Geraint Thomas. Over the next few days, Julian Alaphilippe wore that yellow jersey more akin to a GC contender than a scrappy French rider hanging onto the jersey for grim death, a la Tommy Voeckler in 2004. There's people who still say he was robbed, that he could have held the jersey to Paris if things had been a little bit different. But one thing is for sure, on the 19th of July, Julian Alaphilippe shocked the world and made the impossible possible. Chapeau, Julian. Julian Alaphilippe, one of the few riders in this great era to ride solely on his heart and not always on his power meter. But let me ask you a question. Who is your favourite all-time rider? When you sit down, when you're having a chat at the cafe, you're eating your cake, and someone asks you, who's your all-time favourite cyclist? Leave your all-time favourite cyclist down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you've not done already, hit that notification bell, and if you've enjoyed the video, of course, feel free to hit that thumbs up.